43 million people. Lights out. No warning. No explosion. Just darkness, swallowing an entire region in less than 3 seconds. This is what happens when electromagnetic pulse weapons turn theory into nightmare. And this is the story of how modern military forces would respond when the grid dies and chaos erupts. The clock reads 0 hour. Cities that never sleep suddenly do. Traffic lights dead. Hospitals on backup power scrambling. Communications severed. Financial systems frozen. Everything connected to the grid just became worthless metal and plastic. The electromagnetic burst originated from high altitude. Detonation at 250 miles up. The physics are brutal and simple. Gamma rays slam into atmosphere. Electrons cascade downward at near light speed. Every circuit board in the blast radius becomes a victim. Transformers explode. Power lines become useless cables. The cascade effect is immediate and total. Military command centers buried deep underground light up with alerts. Faraday-caged systems survive. Hardened communications networks activate. Within 90 seconds, assessment teams confirm what sensors already showed. This wasn't solar flare. This wasn't accident. This was deliberate. This was war. 3 satellites detected the burst signature. Radiation patterns match weapons-grade detonation. The altitude, timing, and location leave zero doubt. Someone just pulled the trigger on infrastructure warfare. What's your take on EMP weapons? Type A if you think they're the most dangerous modern threat. Type B if you think conventional weapons are still deadlier. Drop your answer below. Response protocols activate across multiple continents. Strategic command goes to DEFCON 2. Bomber wings spin up. Submarine fleets receive encrypted orders through extremely low-frequency transmissions. Surface vessels operating outside the affected zone receive flash traffic. Every asset not hit by the pulse gets mission updates within 5 minutes. The military machinery that survives starts moving. Fast. The adversary made calculations. They assumed the EMP would create enough chaos to paralyze response. They assumed backup systems would fail. They assumed command and control would collapse. They were wrong on all 3 counts. Decades of preparation for exactly this scenario meant redundancy upon redundancy. While civilian infrastructure burned, military networks switched to shielded systems built specifically to survive electromagnetic warfare. Asset deployment begins immediately. Airborne command posts already in patrol patterns take control. E-4B aircraft designed to command nuclear forces become central hubs. These flying fortresses carry equipment hardened against electromagnetic pulses 50 times stronger than what just hit the grid. Communications relay through military satellite networks operating on frequencies and encryption the pulse couldn't touch. The command structure stays intact. But what the adversary didn't know was what came next. Fighter wings launch from bases outside the affected zone. F-35 stealth fighters equipped with advanced electronic warfare suites. Their mission isn't just retaliation, it's prevention. Intelligence identified 3 more high-altitude launch platforms preparing for follow-up strikes. Eliminating them becomes priority alpha. Each platform represents another potential blackout, another 40 million people in darkness. The fighters go weapons hot. Time now reads plus 12 minutes since initial strike. Cruise missiles launch from surface vessels positioned in international waters. BGM-109 Tomahawks programmed with precise coordinates. Their targets are the ground control stations directing the orbital weapons. Without ground control, the remaining platforms become space junk. Each missile carries 1,000 pounds of high explosive. Flight time to target is 18 minutes. The missiles fly low. Below, radar coverage. Terrain following at 550 miles per hour. Simultaneously, cyber warfare units unleash prepared response packages. The adversary's command networks come under coordinated digital assault. Military-grade malware designed over years specifically for this scenario floods their systems. Power grids in adversary territory start experiencing cascading failures, not from EMP, from precisely targeted code exploiting vulnerabilities intelligence agencies had mapped for months. Turnabout meets fair play. Ground forces mobilize within the affected zone. Military vehicles hardened against electromagnetic pulse become the only reliable transport. Humvees with protected electrical systems. Command vehicles with Faraday cage integration. These assets were expensive. They were questioned by budget committees. Now they're the only things moving while civilian vehicles sit dead on highways. Emergency response teams deploy to critical infrastructure. Hospitals, water treatment, communications hubs. Military engineers carry portable generators and communications equipment designed to survive pulse weapons. The air war intensifies at plus 20 minutes. Those F-35s reach their targets. 3 orbital launch platforms hovering at the edge of space on massive balloons. Each platform carries 2 more EMP warheads. The fighters engage from 40 miles out. AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles streak upward. The platforms had defenses, chaff dispensers, infrared countermeasures. None of it matters against missiles traveling at Mach 4 with active radar guidance. 3 platforms disintegrate in brilliant flashes visible from the ground. 6 more blackouts prevented. What would you have done differently in this scenario? Would you prioritize retaliation or defense first? Share your strategic thinking in the comments. Cruise missiles reach their targets at plus 30 minutes. Ground control stations housed in reinforced bunkers. The Tomahawks carry penetrator warheads, designed to punch through concrete before detonation. The first missile opens the roof. The second missile goes through the hole. High explosive detonates inside the bunker. Command and control for the orbital platforms ceases to exist. Backup stations receive the same treatment minutes later. The adversary's ability to coordinate follow-up strikes disappears in smoke and rubble. If you're finding this tactical breakdown valuable, hit that subscribe button. This kind of detailed military analysis takes serious research time. Cyber operations achieve critical mass at plus 45 minutes. Adversary power grids in 3 major cities experience total failure. Not permanent like EMP damage, but enough to send a message. Traffic control systems malfunction. Banking networks freeze. Emergency services get overwhelmed. The adversary population experiences a taste of what they inflicted. But this is surgical, controlled, reversible. The capability to make it permanent exists. That capability remains undeployed. For now. The message is clear. Escalation has consequences. Naval assets move into position for extended operations. Carrier strike groups increase speed to flank. 32 knots sustained. Destination is international waters adjacent to adversary territory. Each carrier brings 75 aircraft. Each aircraft brings precision strike capability. The carriers also bring something else. Mobile power generation. Once positioned, they can pump electricity to coastal areas through hastily erected transmission lines. The affected region gets power back online through military generation, not full power, but enough for hospitals, water treatment, emergency services. Strategic bomber wings reach their holding positions at plus 60 minutes. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers carrying conventional precision weapons. Each bomber carries 16 2,000-pound GPS-guided bombs. Their targets are pre-selected. Adversary military installations, command bunkers, communications hubs, air defense sites. The bombers don't release weapons, not yet. They orbit in their holding patterns. visible on adversary radar as ghosts that appear and disappear. Psychological warfare through presence. The message: we can hit anything, anytime, and you can't stop us. On the ground in the affected zone, restoration begins. Military engineers assess transformer damage. Civilian power infrastructure use transformers never designed to survive electromagnetic pulse. Replacing them takes months under normal circumstances, but military stocks include mobile transformers, smaller capacity, designed for expeditionary operations. Engineers deploy them to critical nodes. Power begins flowing to priority facilities within 3 hours of the initial strike. Not citywide power, strategic power, hospitals first, water treatment second, emergency services third. Don't miss future breakdowns like this. Make sure you're subscribed so you catch every detailed tactical analysis we produce. Communications restoration proves more complex. Cell towers died when their circuits fried. Internet infrastructure collapsed. But military communications trucks deploy throughout the zone. These vehicles carry satellite uplinks and mobile cell technology. They create temporary communications bubbles. Emergency services can coordinate. Hospitals can share information. The network isn't fast. It isn't comprehensive. But it works. And working beats darkness. At +4 hours, assessment teams deliver damage reports. Economic impact estimated at $180 billion. Critical infrastructure destroyed or damaged across 43 million person region, but casualties remain minimal. Emergency backup systems at hospitals functioned. Military response prevented follow-up attacks. Adversary capability to launch additional strikes eliminated. The cyber counter-operation degraded adversary infrastructure without permanent damage. Strategic bombers established air superiority without firing shots. The response was calibrated, proportional, devastating. The adversary leadership faces choices: escalate further and face unrestricted military response, or freeze and negotiate. Intelligence intercepts suggest internal chaos. The cyber operations hit harder than expected. Their population is angry. Their military is questioning orders. The orbital platforms were supposed to be secret weapons. Instead, they became expensive fireworks destroyed in 20 minutes. The ground control stations were supposed to be invulnerable. Instead, they became craters. Their escalation ladder just collapsed. Diplomatic channels open at +6 hours. Back channels established years ago for exactly this scenario. Neutral nations offer mediation. The terms are simple: immediate stand-down of all offensive operations, reparations for infrastructure damage, international inspection of remaining orbital weapons programs, or the bombers orbiting in holding patterns receive release authorization. The adversary has 12 hours to respond. Was this response too aggressive or too restrained? Drop your analysis in the comments below. Restoration accelerates as military assets flood the affected zone. Engineering battalions arrive with heavy equipment, portable power generators by the hundreds, communications equipment, water purification systems. The military becomes the backbone of emergency response while civilian infrastructure rebuilds. National Guard units establish order in cities where traffic lights don't work and darkness breeds chaos. The presence of uniformed personnel with working communications and transportation prevents the collapse into anarchy the adversary hoped to trigger. At +12 hours, power restoration reaches 20% of pre-strike levels in critical areas. Hospitals operate normally. Water flows from taps. Emergency services coordinate effectively. The affected population sees military trucks and generators on every corner. They see fighter jets overhead. They see order maintained despite infrastructure collapse. The psychological impact of successful response outweighs the fear from the initial attack. The adversary responds at the 11-hour mark. unconditional acceptance of terms, stand-down orders issued to remaining military assets. The orbital weapons program faces international inspection within 72 hours. Reparations negotiations begin immediately. The strategic bombers turn back to their bases without releasing a single weapon. The carrier strike groups maintain position, but stand down from combat alert. Crisis ends not with explosion, but with capitulation. Your engagement shapes what scenarios we analyze next. If this breakdown provided value, give it a thumbs up. Lessons emerge from the ashes. The EMP strike caused massive infrastructure damage but failed strategically. Hardened military systems survived. Redundant communications networks functioned. Rapid response prevented follow-up attacks. Proportional retaliation avoided uncontrolled escalation. The adversary learned that infrastructure warfare cuts both ways, and that military forces prepared for electromagnetic pulse warfare can respond faster than civilian infrastructure can collapse. Long-term implications reshape strategic thinking. Nations invest heavily in grid hardening. Transformers get electromagnetic shielding. Critical infrastructure receives protection previously reserved for military systems. The cost runs into trillions. But the alternative is repeated vulnerability to weapons that can paralyze entire regions without direct casualties. The electromagnetic pulse attack becomes a turning point, not because it succeeded, but because it failed so completely. Technology development accelerates. Faster restoration systems, better shielded civilian infrastructure, improved detection of high-altitude platforms, counter-space weapons designed to eliminate orbital threats before they activate. The electromagnetic pulse era forces adaptation, forces innovation, forces preparation for warfare that targets not soldiers, but the systems soldiers and civilians depend on. 6 months post-strike, the affected region operates at 90% normal capacity. New transformers replace damaged units. Hardened systems protect critical nodes. Economic recovery begins. The cost remains staggering. But the response demonstrated something crucial. Electromagnetic pulse weapons aren't silver bullets. They're first strikes that demand immediate counter-escalation. And militaries prepared for electromagnetic warfare can turn initial disadvantage into eventual victory. The Great Blackout taught the world that darkness doesn't guarantee defeat, that hardened systems and redundant networks can survive the unsurvivable, that rapid response and proportional retaliation can end crises before they spiral into unlimited war. The adversary pulled the trigger on infrastructure warfare and discovered their trigger pulled retaliation they couldn't withstand. Future adversaries. Watching this scenario, understand the calculation now. Electromagnetic pulse attacks invite immediate military response across every domain. Cyber, air, space, conventional precision strikes. The victim doesn't collapse into chaos. They collapse into coordinated retaliation. The weapon that was supposed to paralyze instead activates response mechanisms designed and tested for decades. This is modern warfare when the lights go out. This is what happens when theory becomes reality and militaries execute plans drawn up for worst-case scenarios. This is why electromagnetic pulse weapons remain more theoretical threat than practical strategy. Because the response outweighs the attack, every single time. So here's the question that matters. Would electromagnetic pulse warfare ever actually work against a prepared military force? Or is it the ultimate paper tiger, a weapon that sounds terrifying but fails against redundant systems and rapid response? Share your detailed analysis below. And if you made it this far through this tactical deep dive, you're exactly who this channel serves. Hit subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Share this with anyone interested in modern military strategy. Because this kind of analysis, this level of detail, this commitment to understanding modern warfare, this is what we do. Every single video. Your support through likes, comments, and subscriptions makes these breakdowns possible. The electromagnetic pulse scenario isn't about which side wins or loses. It's about understanding that modern warfare has no easy victories, no silver bullets, no wonder weapons that guarantee success. Only preparation, redundancy, and the will to respond when crisis strikes. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you in the next tactical breakdown.